Welcome back to Askewed Reviews, and I'm continuing to go through all of Kevin Smith's films, and this one actually has two viewer requests, and it's for the 1999 film Dogma. Here is your trivia question for today. What is the first revamp the Catholicism WoW campaign introduces? The answer will be at the end of this episode. So our film starts with us meeting two of our main characters, Loki and Bartleby, both of which are renegade angels that have been banished to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. An anonymous individual has managed to get a news article into the hands of Bartleby. After studying it, he's realized that there's a loophole where both he and Loki can go to New Jersey, and if they walk through the doors of a specific church, they can actually go back to heaven. Now, the major downside to this is if they do in fact walk through those doors, they will undo reality. We then hop over to McHenry, Illinois, where we meet our other main character, Bethany. Now, Bethany is just your average everyday mortal living and dealing with her average everyday life, but she is currently going through a crisis of faith. One night, while Bethany is sleeping, she is awoken by a voice that is apparently Metatron, an angel who is the voice of God, and is now putting her on the quest of stopping Bartleby and Loki. It does take Bethany a bit to wrap her mind around this, but eventually she does agree to the quest. Now, luckily for her, she will not be taking this on alone, as soon she meets up with two new allies, Jay and Silent Bob. The duo eventually agrees to accompany Bethany back to their home of New Jersey. Another companion ends up joining them as well, a man named Rufus, who is apparently the 13th apostle. This merry band eventually gets rounded out with the aid of a muse named Serendipity. So Bartleby and Loki are not the only things this group will have to worry about, as they are being tracked and stalked by a group of demons. So will our fallen angels be able to get back home, or will Bethany and her group be able to stop them? This movie was written and directed by Kevin Smith. Smith originally wanted Robert Rodriguez to direct the film, but Rodriguez saw how personal the story was and talked Smith into directing it himself. Kevin Smith wrote Dogma before he even wrote Clerks, but shelved it because he wanted to be able to afford the proper effects. The original title Smith had for the film was God the Movie. Dogma is the fourth film in the View Askew-universe. Smith was hoping to get Danny Elfman to score the film, but he was unavailable. Luckily, he was able to get Howard Shore. Now, while the film takes place in Wisconsin, Illinois, and New Jersey, it was primarily all filmed in Pennsylvania, with a little bit in New Jersey and some in California. The character of Bethany is played by Linda Fiorentino, but there were quite a few other actresses up for the role, including Janine Garofalo, Alanis Morissette, Gillian Anderson, Shannon Doherty, and Joey Lauren Adams. Apparently, Smith and Fiorentino did not get along during the production of this film. Ben Affleck had already agreed to be in the movie Dogma while he was filming Chasing Amy. Matt Damon did eventually receive the role of Loki, but that was originally written for Jason Lee. The only reason he didn't play the character is due to scheduling conflicts. Now, they still managed to get him into the film as the character of Azrael. Before Lee took on that character, Smith was hoping to get either Bill Murray, John Travolta, or Adam Sandler as the character of Azrael. Chris Rock plays Rufus, but when Smith wrote the character, he had Samuel L. Jackson or Will Smith in mind. Alan Rickman was approached to be in the film when Kevin Smith and Scott Mosier found out that he was a fan of Chasing Amy. Rickman only had two questions when it came to being in the movie. Would they stay faithful to the script? And were the wings real or CGI? Alanis Morissette plays the character of God, but that role almost went to either Emma Thompson or Holly Hunter. George Carlin plays Cardinal Glick, but that role was also offered to Albert Brooks. Smith knew that he wanted Salma Hayek to play the character of Serendipity, and luckily she agreed to it right away. There are quite a few actors from the View Askew-universe that appear in this film. Brian O'Halloran would play the newscaster Grant Hicks, who is yet another character that is related to Dante Hicks, his character from Clerks. Jeff Anderson, who played the character of Randall in Clerks, plays the gun shop owner in this movie. Producer Scott Mosier would play the guy who's cheating on his wife that's on the bus. A few of the guys from the eventual show Comic Book Men would appear in this, including long term friends Brian Johnson and Walter Flanagan as protesters, and in the strip club scene, you can see Ming Chen. The leader of the gang at the strip club is played by Dwight Yule, who also played Hooper in Chasing Amy. Another actor that's in pretty much everything View Askew is Ernest O'Donnell as one of the members of the press. Guinevere Turner shows up as the bus station attendant. Ethan Suplee technically does not appear in physical form in this movie, but he is the voice of the Golgothan. And then, of course, there's some new faces that would continue to appear in other projects by Kevin Smith, including Brian Quinn, who not only is a friend of Smith's in real life, but would eventually go on to be part of the group Impractical Jokers, Betty Aberlin, who would play the nun, and Matthew Maher, who plays the bartender. Now, I couldn't find her, so maybe they eventually cut her out, but apparently Gwyneth Paltrow is in the movie in the airport scene near the beginning of the film as she was visiting Ben Affleck on set that day. This movie is the first appearance of the restaurant Moobies in the View Askew universe. Now, I had never noticed this before, but apparently they specifically designed the Jungle Gym set outside of Moobies to look like a meat grinder. Kevin Smith also wrote a comic book miniseries called Chasing Dogma, which actually showcases the events between Chasing Amy and Dogma. So Smith was both very happy and very upset with Jason Mewes during the filming of this movie. He was happy because the actor actually learned all of his lines before the movie started since he wanted to impress Alan Rickman. But he was also really upset because throughout the film, Mewes was still using heroin. Kevin Smith actually appeared on the news during a protest for the movie Dogma. When he showed up, he actually got interviewed and started trashing the movie and constantly talked about, yes, I realize a lot of people say I look like Kevin Smith. If you happen to have a physical copy of Dogma on DVD or Blu ray, make sure to hold on to that. They no longer are producing that in a physical form, and you really can't find it on anywhere streaming, mainly due to the fact that the Weinstein Company owns that, and with Harvey Weinstein in jail, he's holding on to that with a death grip. There have been talks from time to time of doing a Dogma 2, and if Kevin Smith were to ever get the rights, one possibility he's talked about is bringing back Alanis Morissette to play a grown up version of Bethany's daughter. So when it comes to the film Dogma, this is, I think, my favorite Kevin Smith movie, and it's mainly due to the fact that it's funny, it's entertaining, it's very thought provoking, and especially very quotable. So I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. And if you enjoyed Dogma, other movies I recommend checking out are Little Nicky, Bruce Almighty, Bedazzled, and This Is the End. Now it's time for the trivia question from the beginning of this episode. What is the first revamp the Catholicism WOW campaign introduces? So, since Catholicism WOW is an attempt to update and revamp the Catholic Church, they've decided to get rid of the old, drab, depressing Christ on a cross and bring in the new, happy, buddy Christ. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews, and if there's a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments.